Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria and today's video is probably going to be very short because it is my end of month wrap up for March and I only read 4 books in the second half of March. I definitely had a full reading slump going on. It was starting towards the end of when I did my mid-month wrap up, which I will link down below because the first I don't know, 13, 14 books that I read in March are in that video. But I was starting to get into a slump towards the time when I filmed that video, and it totally progressed through the rest of March. I just didn't read. I watched a lot of TV and I went on TikTok a lot. I did not read as much. So anyway, I did end up reading 4 books in the second half of March, and I'm gonna go through them and let you know what I thought about them. So the first one that I read was Halo by Brooke Blaine and Ella Frank. This one is a rockstar romance, and it was actually the book club pick for Jess from Peace Love Books Patreon book club with Gianna Darling, and I started it in time for the live show, but I didn't finish it in time for the live show, but I still watched the live show, whatever. But I ended up finishing it later on in the month, and I actually enjoyed it. It wasn't a favorite or anything. It was also very short, so it doesn't end on the HEA. I think there are 3 books in the series, and then at the end of the 3rd book you get an HEA, but I thought that it was really fun start to a series, and I thought that the characters were really interesting. It's basically about this man named Halo who is auditioning to be the new lead singer for this band, and Halo ends up making it and joining this band, and they sort of revamp the band for him. So the band previously had a different name and everything, but they're we're just gonna do a whole rebrand with a new lead singer and everything. And I really liked Halo. He was very young or young seeming. I don't know if he was actually young, but he was very young seeming, and he was really excited about music, and you could tell just from the way that he was written how passionate he was for music and for writing songs, and how excited he was to be a part of this band. And I really loved that. And then his hero is named Viper, and he's one of the members of the band, and he's got a playboy man whore type vibe to him. Definitely bad boy rock star energy, and he is out gay. And Halo, actually, when he first joins, he says that he's straight, and he ends up having this sort of sexual awakening of him being attracted to Viper. And I liked it because he never really had kind of a moment of, oh my god, I like a man. It was just this is Viper and I like Viper, you know? It was just the person rather than the gender, which I really found interesting. And I loved the scenes in the book of them writing music together and hearing the lyrics of the music, because I did listen to the audiobook for this one. But I enjoyed it. I give it 4 stars. I am intrigued to read the second one. It's actually on my April TBR, so it was a good book, and I've read other Brooke Blaine and Ella Frank books that I've enjoyed, so I'm glad that I got to start another series of theirs. Then after that, I read Resting Witch Face by Juliet Cross, and I was very excited about this. I was heavily anticipating this. I've been wanting to read it since the book came out, and the audiobook finally came out at the end of March, and I read it, and I did not enjoy this one. So this is Jules and Ruben's book, and this series, I would highly, 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 highly recommend reading this series in order. And so this is book, I don't know, 5, I guess, in the series. And I've given the previous books, I think I give 3 of the previous books 5 stars, and one of them 4 stars. And this is the 5th book. I think I'm gonna give this book 3 stars. I didn't enjoy it. I had been really anticipating it because I was intrigued by Ruben and Jules's passion and chemistry in the previous books. I wanted to know their history, and this one definitely was second chance romance vibes, but I didn't really I didn't feel it. I didn't feel their connection and chemistry as much as I had in previous books with them as the side character. I was actually quite bored with their relationship. I just didn't really care about them being together. Like, I really wanted to like root for them and like want to be all in on their relationship, and I just didn't care. I think also one of the biggest things that I didn't enjoy about this book is that this one focuses a lot more on like the political side of the paranormal world, and Jules has a council position, and then she is working with Ruben to go to the different like councils and try and get the werewolves a seat at the table, and I just did not care about this political plot line. I thought that some of the decisions that were made within the plot were really dumb, especially because there were parts where they were like, this seems suspicious, maybe we should leave, and then they were like, no, we'll stay, and then something horrible would go wrong, and I was like, you idiots, why didn't you, I don't know, like inform the other people that maybe you had like a weird feeling, or that, hey, this feels suspicious and you don't trust them. And it just made me irritated, and I was just not really vibing with their relationship, with the plot, with anything. I don't know if the fact that I was in a slump played into this, but I just really didn't care about their relationship as much as I cared about the other ones' relationships. And after reading something like Always Practice Safe Hex and the absolute fiery passion and romance and sexiness and interesting plotline of that book, I was just let down by Resting Witch Face. I just didn't feel those things as much in this book as I have in the previous books in the series. So it didn't work for me, and that's okay. Then I read Puck Shy by Tegan Hunter. This is book 1 in the Carolina Comments series. I had read book like 4 or 5 in this series that I had gotten an audio arc of. And so I wanted to go back, because I enjoyed that one so much, I wanted to go back and read the previous books in the series. And so this was the first one, and it was basically the hero, his car breaks down. He's a professional hockey player, and his car breaks down, and he's kind of like struggling a little bit because he feels like it was his fault that his team didn't win the Stanley Cup last year. Like, he had like a last minute penalty or something, and then the other team scored on the power play, and so he feels like it's his fault that the team lost, and he thinks that this team is really upset with him. And so he's kind of like lost his mojo and his vibe, and he's driving back to the city after being on break and staying with his family, and his car breaks down, and he needs to get back in time for practice, and so he ends up getting picked up, basically like hitchhiking, by this woman who's driving to the city, and they spend this whole time in the car, them doing this like road trip moment, and it was pretty cute. Like, I liked their like almost instant friendship that they had. They definitely like vibed really well together, and then they get back and they're really like thinking about each other. Like, they go their separate ways and everything, but they're really thinking about each other. And then the hero, his friend is like, you should get back out there dating wise. And so he sets him up with this dating app, and he ends up seeing the heroine on this dating app. But he didn't put his face on the dating app, and he doesn't want anyone to know who he is because he's a professional hockey player, and he doesn't want like puck bunnies coming after him. So it's this whole like kind of like hidden identity moment. It wasn't as good as the later book in the series that I had read. It was not bad. I think I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Like, it was good, and I'm going to continue the series, but the plot felt very, I don't know if juvenile is the way that I want to go, but it's what I'm gonna say. It felt very it didn't hold my attention as much as I wanted it to. It wasn't as, like, I knew exactly what was gonna happen going into it. Like, there was no twist or anything that I wasn't expecting. And I really wanted there to be, which could be a me problem, but this is my channel. This is my rating. I can do whatever I want. So I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Then the last book that I read in March was Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate. So this one I read the ebook of. So this one is the next book in the Salacious Players Club series. And the hero in this one is like, there's a very large age gap with the heroine. The heroine, I think, is 21, and the hero is like 50 something. So there's like a large age gap. There's like a 30-year age gap. And I was a little worried going into this one because I love a good age gap, but I don't like a daddy kink. I am not a daddy kink girl. I am not a fan. I think that if there's a small moment of it in like a sex scene, I'm fine with that, but I'm not a huge fan of like a heavy daddy kink. And this one was definitely a little bit more daddy kinky than I wanted it to be. But I was prepared going into it based on the high age gap and the Silver Fox hero that I figured it was going to happen, especially with it being a Salacious Players Club book. So basically the heroine in this one works for the Salacious Players Club. She's a waitress, and the hero is an investor in the club. And the heroine ends up sort of like making a bet with one of her fellow waiters that the hero is going to bid on one of the girls in this like auction that they were having at the Salacious Players Club, and she loses the bet, and her punishment for losing the bet is that she has to go up into the auction, and then the hero ends up betting on her, or winning her for this auction, and they like win a date, or basically. And then the heroine also is living in like a van, and the hero finds out about this, and he becomes very overprotective, and he like makes her come and stay at his house. So there's like a forced proximity of her staying at his house. He is a very, very protective hero, and I really liked that about him. He was very soft. He was very open with his emotions and his vulnerabilities, which I really, really appreciated. He was not overly aggressively dominant. He was dominant in a very emotional way. He was very much like open with his feelings, and I really appreciated that. I really, really liked that about him. I liked the best actually in this book. He was my favorite character more than the heroine. The heroine seemed very young. She was 21, 22, whatever, and she did seem young, and especially in comparison to the hero. And so that definitely played into the like daddy kinkness that was going on, which made me a little slightly bit uncomfortable. But I overall ended up enjoying the book a lot more than I thought that I was going to. It was a 5-star book until like for the first like 80%. Like I was really, really enjoying myself. And then the last 20% of this book went a little bit downhill for me. I don't want to spoil what happens, but I was not a fan of the plot twist. I was not a fan of the conflict. I didn't really like the resolution of the conflict at all. Basically, the entire last 20% of this book, I was not a fan of. And because of that, I'm going to give this book 4 stars. I would totally give Ronan 5 stars, like Ronan Cade as a hero, 5-star hero. The book overall, 4 stars. But yeah, that was the last book that I read in March, and I'm really excited for Madame or Madame or however the hell you say the next book. I love Eden, and I really, really, really hope that it's FFM. I think that that would be really, really cool. I hope that it's not just MF, but I really, really, really want like a sapphic moment in the book. So I hope that it's FFM. Crossing our fingers. But that's the last book I read in March. I have already read, I think, 5 books in April. So I think that April, we can officially say that my reading slump is definitely gone in April. So I just needed a break, I guess, for the last like 2 weeks of March. But that's going to be it for this video. So let me know what you read in March. I would love to hear about it. But that's going to be it for this video. So like it, subscribe, stick around, and I will see you next time. I hope that you have the absolute best day. Bye.